Hey everybody. Well, just when you thought corruption in college football was just limited to the players and the coaches, as an example of what's happened at Ohio State recently, what's possibly happened with Cam Newton, also what happened with Reggie Bush in the past, and if you've had a chance to watch Real Sports on HBO, they're talking about more financial corruption. It's not just limited to the players and the coaches. How about CEOs of BCS games? That's right, people who don't even play or coach the game, but are greatly a part of it, and yet turning it into just downright scandal. And it could very well cost the Fiesta Bowl its status with the Bowl Championship Series and from hosting future national championship games. I'm not saying it will, but it could. And after you've heard the following, if you haven't heard already, you're going to be thinking, how did the Fiesta Bowl get away with this for so long and with this much money with nobody watching? We're talking about its now fired CEO. You're going to love this name, John Junker. And after you hear this story, the whole thing is going to remind you of the first syllable of his last name, Junk. The 276-page report, which was just released, and keep in mind a couple of years ago, it was the Arizona Republic newspaper that was the smoking gun on this story about how Junker and his colleagues were using Fiesta Bowl money for their own personal gain. How about a $33,000 birthday party for Mr. Junker? And again, this money was not theirs. This was Fiesta Bowl money, but remember, nobody was watching over the money, and Junker treated it like Monopoly or the Life Game money. Just dealing it out, no questions asked, no supervision. $33,000 birthday party for him. How about he and his colleagues spending about $1,200 a trip at a strip club? It gets better. How about establishing fake bonuses for employees to compensate them for political contributions? By the way, that is against the law. That's against state law. So the fired CEO Junker, him losing his position as CEO might be the least of his worries. This guy might be going to jail when this is all said and done. And also, how about using that Fiesta Bowl money, and you're going to love this, to buy exclusive memberships at prestigious golf clubs as well. And also, him and his colleagues using that money for cruises. Again, it just makes you sick. The amount of money that was used. I mean, doing one of those bad things is bad enough, but doing all those things and doing it for the length of time that they did it and getting away with it, yeah, you can understand why the BCS, when they found out, pretty upset, because the BCS does hold every single one of their bowl games, the Rose, the Fiesta, the Orange, and the Sugar, to high standards. This obviously goes far beneath them, and if you believe what their executive director, the BCS executive director Bill Hancock, had to say when he said this week that their actions, meaning the Fiesta Bowl and John Junker, unacceptable, below our standards, and will not be tolerated. If you believe that, then the Fiesta Bowl is in a lot of trouble when it comes to their future as a BCS Bowl, even though I know they still have 3 years left to go on their current contract with the BCS. But that could always be broken. The Fiesta Bowl is going to have to make a convincing statement. Its board of directors, who, by the way, this week unanimously fired Junker, they're going to have to make a written statement to Hancock and the rest of the BCS why they should remain considered for a BCS. Not why they should keep their BCS standards, but why they should remain considered, which in a way, maybe the BCS has already made up their mind. These are pretty, you don't have to be a genius to know that what Junker and his colleagues did with all of these financial improprieties was wrong. It's really, really bad, and that they're going to have to make a pretty convincing statement, and it's got to go beyond just saying, well, okay, here's part of our statement. We just fired Junker. But they're also going to have to promise the BCS that there's a much, much better job of overseeing anything financial that goes out. And they're going to have to be on zero tolerance, basically. And again, I'm not saying that the BCS is going to immediately abolish them from future BCS games, but they're in big trouble. Now, let's just say for a second that the Fiesta Bowl no longer is a part of the BCS. What will that do with the future of the BCS? I think the Cotton Bowl is right in line. I think this is good news for Jerry Jones in Arlington. I think it's also very good news for the Big 12 champion, whether it's Oklahoma, whether it's Oklahoma State, Texas A&M, or Texas. I think it's great news for them. Much shorter trip to Dallas, be able to take a lot more fans and play in what is the most revolutionary stadium in the United States, Cowboys Stadium in Arlington. I think that if the Fiesta Bowl, because of what's happened with Junker and his colleagues, I do believe that the Cotton Bowl would be first in line. Now, is it realistic that this is going to happen? It's realistic. I'm not going to guarantee it. As a matter of fact, I think what the BCS is going to do now is take their sweet time in making some kind of a ruling as far as the Fiesta Bowl's future with the BCS. I think that they are going to go through the financial records of the other three BCS games, the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, and the Orange Bowl, to find out if financial improprieties have taken place there. I think that even though I'm not pointing at bowls or naming names, I think we'd be completely naive to think that other bowl games don't have financial improprieties of some type. I would be shocked, however, if their improprieties even came close to matching or surpassing what Mr. Junker, the former CEO of the Fiesta Bowl, was doing all this time. So this kind of just goes to show you that not everybody cheats, not everybody takes financial gain. And keep in mind again that BCS bowls make a bunch of money. They charge each particular school so much money because they allot them so many tickets to go to the bowl game. University of Connecticut lost a bunch of money, about $2 million, because they couldn't sell their mandatory $17,000 allotment of this past season's Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma. That's why they were only able to sell 1/4 of the allotment. It's a cross-country trip, and plus those tickets are not cheap either. And if you bought advanced tickets for the Fiesta Bowl, you also were required to buy tickets for the other two Phoenix metro area based bowl games as well, including the Insight Bowl. Not everybody can afford that, but the BCS is guaranteed to get that ticket money whether you sell your tickets out or not. So don't tell me that BCS games don't make a lot of money, and don't tell me that John Junker didn't get paid a lot of money by the Fiesta Bowl. He did, $600,000 a year, because he was in charge of 3 Phoenix-based games. So it's not like he was eating, macaroni and cheese, ramen noodles, crackers, just struggling and had to do what he did. He was already getting paid a lot of money anyway. But when you don't have anybody watching over your back and you're the head honcho of a bowl game, I'm not saying you'll cheat, but the temptation's there, and Junker fell right into the temptation, lost his job, and as a result, he might be behind bars for a while. And I certainly hope so, because it's just a very disturbing and disgusting story, and it's hard to believe that it all happened. By the way, before we go, still no word yet on who OU's next head basketball coach will be. Buzz Williams will not be it. Marquette has signed him to an extension. UNLV and former Kansas State head coach Lon Kruger has turned Oklahoma down, not interested. I still think Tad Boyle at Colorado is going to have a pretty good chance to become the head coach if he wants the job. I think all directions are pointing to Tad Boyle for the Buffaloes. The only question now is, does he want the job? So that's the buzz about the Oklahoma head coaching position. No pun intended. No Buzz Williams. Doesn't look like Ron Kruger's in the mix, but Tad Boyle could very well be the guy. We'll let you know if and when, and of course not if, but when OU announces their head coaching position, and we'll let you know who it's going to be. Boomer Sooner.